Chapter 17, verse 24 and 25.
Acts 17, 24 and 25.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember where I was looking at.
God made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither...
Wait, I don't think that was a question. I think that was me making notes. Not right.
Okay.
Not that one. John 19:3, when it says smote him,
Ah,
what does that mean? Smoke. Mean,
to strike, to hit.
right?
Yes.
And what was he hitting? I did that one yesterday. Hit Jesus.
What, I heard John. I didn't hear the
John 19:3.
19:3. Yeah, they smote him. They hit him. They beat him.
With your hands.
Yeah.
With your hands.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that one.
It is unlawful for them to do. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Yeah. Hello. I think the same chapter 17, or verse 17. No.
In
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's verse 17.
of John?
Yeah, the same one, 19.
Okay, 19:17.
Verse 17.
And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of the skull, which is in the Hebrew called Golgotha.
Golgotha, that's a place? Is what I'm-
Right,
is that-
right. Yep. Yeah, we use the Latin word Calvary. So when we say, there's all kinds of songs about, Calvary,
Yeah.
and you'll hear that used a lot. I believe that's the Latin name for that, Golgotha.
Hebrews 11:3. When I was reading it,
You've been busy.
I know. Obviously, I was like kind of busy though.
Yes.
Hebrews 11:3. Anyways, it was saying something about worlds, not like one world. It was worlds.
Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God.
Yeah, worlds. Like,
Yeah.
explain that to me, please.
I would have to look up the actual Greek word to give you a better definition, but typically he's just saying all of creation, whether it's this earth or the whole universe, it's all been created.
So, like when I went to the
Because typically,
it said universe.
yeah, typically the word is cosmos that gets used in the Greek. So
Here
it's
in the Blue Letter Bible, it says it's a period of time,
Yeah.
age.
eon. Is that what's the Greek? Is it eon or cosmos? Eon. Yeah.
Oh, well, and I went through to the ESV and it said universe, which I
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thought it was the cosmos,
Yeah.
but I wanted to clarify
Yep.
before I made. And then, what's my other question? I had one more and I don't remember what I didn't write it
Okay.
down.
Well, if you come across it, let us know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I got one. So, I was starting that Bible study last night, and we were just doing into the introduction. So they talked about salvation, which we already know what that is, holiness,
Well, hopefully.
and sanctification.
Okay.
So can we go a little over the holiness? Is there another word that we use for holiness? I took a screenshot or a picture of what they were defining it as based on this study.
Did they say like set apart?
Dedicating oneself entirely to God's service and separating from sin. They're using an application.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dedicating oneself. I would not define that as holiness. But
They went to 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 9 and John 17:17.
okay. So let's go to 2 Peter. What was the reference there? 2 Peter what?
1:9.
1:9. But he that lacketh these things, 1:9?
2 Peter 1 verse 9.
Okay. But he that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off, and has forgotten that he was purged of his old sins.
I know, and that's not what is on the picture. Yeah, I was confused there for a second.
Yeah.
Because it says,
Who's faithful and just forgive our sins.
yeah, so it says, for God saved us and called us to live a holy life. He did this not because we deserved it, but because that was
Yeah,
the beginning of time to show us his grace through Jesus Christ. That's what they wrote.
Yeah, they should have had 1 Peter 1:16.
Does that sound
Because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. Those other verses aren't even, the word holiness isn't even there. And that's, so we get into like what we call hermeneutics, interpreting the
Yes.
Bible. And if someone is defining something and using a concept like that, holiness, you want to go to a verse that mentions holiness, or you know what I mean? To define it. Just like if you were going to say, well, what's love? Well, then go to 1 Corinthians 13, right?
Yeah.
Love is, and it's right there.
Because our book, King James uses charity.
Charity, but we know it's the same word, right? If you look it up, there's different Greek words for love. That one happens to be agape. And that's probably the most popular one we know. Phileo, brotherly love, where we get to Philadelphia, and storge and eros and other mentions of different kinds. But it's good to look at a passage that is talking about that if you're going to try to define a word. God is holy. He is set apart. There was none like him. Okay? And when in the Old Testament they would say, this is holy unto the Lord. This is separated out for God's use. That would be holy unto the Lord. So it's, yeah. And when you're in a study like what I think you're in, pick your battles, make sure, because the difficult thing is a lot of times you could just like every time someone says something, it's focus on first salvation, and because just because they talk about, well, we know what salvation is, doesn't mean they know what salvation is.
Yeah,
And
it could be that she was just kind of condensing it down a little bit because
Sure.
it's just an introduction.
Sure.
So she could have been condensing it down
Yeah.
and going off. I hadn't read the book yet, so I
Yeah.
understood.
And a lot of times it's very easy to write the wrong verse down, reference down, or maybe it's written right and you say it wrong. I've flipped things around, went to say 1 Peter, said 2 Peter, so.
Yeah, and
know.
there's been things that I've caught too, like I'll read a verse in the Bible and I'll read it 3-4 times and it's like, this isn't making sense to me, and then I put it down and I pick it back up, like, I don't know, like a day later. And it's like, why did I not get that? It was like clearly right
sure.
there, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So it could
Okay.
be just a mix of things.
All right. Anything else going
I
on?
remember it now.
What you got, Sarah?
Psalm 139, 8.
Okay.
It says, if I am sent up into heaven,
Yes.
it's talking about where you can go Jesus can go anywhere.
Wait, what was that?
If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there.
Yeah.
If I take the wings of the morning, so forth and so
Yeah.
forth. Is that just a poem?
Well, it is poetry. And
Or
David is,
stating that
and-
Jesus Christ is in hell?
no. This is David. He's not talking about God. He's saying, David is saying, wherever I go, you are there. That's all he's saying.
It's David, not Jesus.
Correct. Yeah.
But okay, here's the question though. Jesus can't be in hell.
He's not trying to say Jesus is in hell. All he's saying is, no matter where I go, you are there.
Oh.
I cannot get away from you, is what David is trying to get at.
Speaking of himself.
Yeah, David's speaking of himself.
About Jesus.
No, he's about himself.
Oh.
Yep.
See, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be like
Yeah.
if you were saying it yourself.
Yeah.
I got that now. Okay.
You
That
know.
makes more sense now.
Like I said, it's poetry. We say silly things like, I love you to the moon and back.
Yeah.
Well, we understand what it means. We don't take it literally. Oh, you're going to the moon?
Right.
No.
I get what you're
David's saying, if I went to heaven, you'd be there. If I went to hell or the grave, if I made my, I can't get away from you, Lord, is what he's trying to establish. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I was working through this, and there's a lot of different places they go to, so just have fun.
Yeah, and that's
It's about creation is what it's about.
I have a question about that, but I want to ask it after class.
good. Sounds good. We can go over whatever.
I think that was it.
Okay. Anyone else had any questions on anything?
I only got through a third of it, so next week we might have fun. I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
I just don't want to teach something that's wrong,
Correct.
so I want to make sure that it is right, to make sure I'm teaching it right. And that's how I feel. So, because I don't want to be a false prophet.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to be false teachers.
Yeah, false teacher. There you go.
Okay, we left off in Matthew 21. If you look at verse 1, we've been through some of this, I believe, but I'll just start at verse 1. It says, when they drew close unto Jerusalem, they came to Bethphage, unto the Mount of Olives, and Jesus sent 2 disciples. Now remember what Bethphage means? Beth is house of unripe figs. Okay, now, figs, like
Figs.
like a fig Newton. Like a fig. Okay. Now, that's kind of important because the nation of Israel is often referred to as a fig tree. And we'll see that play out as we go through this, hopefully. So that's when he says, told his 2 of his disciples, says, go on over the village against you, and straightway you shall find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loosen them and bring them unto me. And many will, if any man says aught unto you, you shall say, the Lord has need of them, and straightway he will send them. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of by the prophet, saying, tell ye the daughter of Zion, behold, thy king cometh unto thee meek, and sitting upon a donkey, and the colt the foal of a donkey. And the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. He brought the donkey and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a great multitude spread their garments in the way, and others cut down branches from the trees and strewed them in the way. And the multitude that went before and that followed, crying, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. So what they're quoting here is from Psalm 118. Okay. And we was come close, we was coming to Jerusalem. All the city was moved, saying, who is this? Now that is another quote, if you want to start getting technical, from Psalm 24, 8 through 10, when they're asking, who is this King of glory? And the multitude said, this is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. So when it says Jesus, the prophet, it's not saying necessarily Jesus, a prophet. They were expecting a prophet like unto Moses, calling him the prophet. Okay. Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all of them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. And he said unto them, it is written, my house shall be called the house of prayer, but you've made it a den of thieves. And the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. Now, this whole scene here, this is called the triumphal entry. It was Lamb Selection Day for the nation of Israel, when they would select the Passover lamb. This day was predicted by Daniel in Daniel chapter 9, that 70-week prophecy. In Daniel chapter 9, if you do the math and you take the 62 and then you add the 7, you get 69 weeks and there's 1 week left. And if you do a multiply that by 7 and then a 360-day prophetic year, it comes out to the very day Jesus rode in to Jerusalem. It's the exact day. Now, remember I said they were quoting Psalm 118? Take a look at that psalm of what they were quoting when he's riding in. Psalm 118. In verse 26, it says, "Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord," or Hosanna. Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Okay? So they're quoting that. But if you back up a little bit in that same Psalm, 118, if you look at verse 22, it says, "The stone which the builders refused or rejected has become the head stone of the corner." Remember, Jesus is going to quote this. He's letting him know he's going to be rejected. "This is the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." Now, you've probably recognized that from a song that we sing. And when I was a little kid, I sang that in Sunday school and things like that. And I always just took it as, well, this is the day that God made, and tomorrow's the day, and the next day, and that every day is the day. That's not what it's trying to say. There is a specific day where he rides into Jerusalem and presents himself as the Messiah and is going to be rejected. And that day is fulfilled in that passage we just read from Matthew 21. Okay? Any questions on anything there?
Are you saying the whole psalm is just about that day or just those verses?
I think that the whole psalm is about it, but I would have to go through it carefully because you can keep going and it'll talk about bind the sacrifice with cords. Verse 27, he's talking about an offering, a sacrifice that's going to be made. He says in verse 19, "Open to me the gates of righteousness, I will go into them, I will praise the Lord. This gate of the Lord, unto which the righteousness shall enter." Well, he is the gate. There's only one way to have righteousness, and that's going through him. So, verse 8 is supposedly the middle verse in the Old Testament where it says it's better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in men. It's better to trust in the Lord than put confidence in princes. "All nations surround me about, but in the name of the Lord will I destroy them." That's talking about the second coming of Christ.
Right, but that doesn't fit with the specific day
No,
in
no,
for 26.
right. No, it doesn't fit with a specific day there, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in this psalm, he's talking about Jesus, not himself.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it depends on the psalm, is what you're saying?
It's the context, yeah. You have to read it to figure out, is it prophetic, talking about a messianic psalm, talking about Jesus in the future, or is it someone talking about themselves? And that was the question. Remember the Ethiopian that was heading out of Jerusalem back to Ethiopia, and Philip came there, and that was his question. Who is Isaiah writing about? Is it himself or somebody else? Yep. So,
It's huge. Pastor Cass is the same size too. I'm just blind.
So, all of these.
Oh, you're right.
If you go to Luke chapter 19,
Where are we going? Sorry.
Luke 19. It's the same account, just from the Gospel of Luke, of what we call the triumphal entry. I don't really care for that name, but it's stuck because it's, for the Jews, it's Lamb Selection Day. It's the 10th day of their first month, 4 days before the Passover.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The lamb selection day, and I think I've asked this before. When they talk about a blemish,
Yeah.
are they meaning that it needs to be fully white? Like, could it have like a black spot on it? Like, could it be like, like how some lambs are different colored? Or?
When they gave the, it's not like the red heifer. There was no determination on the color. It was the, is it hurt? Is it injured?
Like lame or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was curious on the color.
Yeah, I don't know what color they were, because like the red heifer, it specifically says.
Yeah, it can't have any
Right.
other color.
Well, and I don't know if the Bible says check every single hair on it.
Yeah.
Now, the rabbis do.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're required to. I don't know. So, but anyway, as far as I know, the Passover, it never specified a color.
It comes to mind every time I think about it.
Yeah.
I'm here in class.
Yeah.
Why don't I just ask it? Right?
Yeah. No, so let's go to verse 38 of Luke 19. And we'll pick it up where it says, saying, "Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest." Some of the Pharisees from among the multitude, said to him, "Master, rebuke thy disciples." And he answered and said unto them, "I tell you, if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out." And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, "If thou had known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come." So he's telling them there was a day that you were supposed to recognize, and they didn't. "For the day shall come upon thee that thy enemy shall cast a trench about thee and surround thee and keep thee in on every side." Now this is when Vespasian and Titus, Vespasian had to leave back to go to Rome, and Titus, his son, the Roman, would stay there, and Jerusalem was surrounded, and then he got the order to destroy Jerusalem. That would be 70 AD. And so there's a warning there. "And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another." The temple would be destroyed, "because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation." So he's weeping over Jerusalem. Why? Because they're not recognizing the day. Okay? Okay, anything else on that? Okay. So he goes into the temple and he casts out the money changers. These would be people that were taking advantage of, using their position to take advantage of people and rip them off. And that's why he calls it a den of thieves. So the blind and lame come to, so now I'm back in Matthew 21, verse 14. Just let everyone know. Matthew 21, 14. "And the blind and lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple saying, Hosanna, Son of David, they were sore displeased. And he says, Hearest thou what they say? And Jesus said unto them, Yea, have you never read, out of the mouth of babes and suckling, thou hast perfected praise? And he left them and went out into the city of Bethany, and he lodged there. Remember what Bethany means?
House of misery.
House of misery. So he was in the house of Bethpage, house of unripe figs, and now he is going to the house of misery. Now in the morning, as he returned to the city, he hungered. When he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon but leaves only, and said to it, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever.
Whenever I saw that, I always thought Jesus was being a little mean towards that fig tree.
So see what he's doing here is the fig tree is a representation of the nation of Israel.
Right, and I
And-
understand that now,
Yeah.
but when I would read that before.
And so because it's supposed to have fruit and there's no fruit, there's supposed to be faith, there is no faith. There's supposed to be understanding, there isn't. So he says, Let no fruit grow on thee henceforth forever. So that generation is going to be lost. Okay? And presently the fig withered away. When his disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, How soon is the fig tree withered away? And Jesus answered and said to them, Verily I say unto you, if you have faith, doubt not, you shall not only do which is done to this fig tree, but if you say unto this mountain, Be thou removed and be cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever you ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. Now these verses get misapplied a lot, but I want to go back to this concept of the fig tree, okay? We'll have to go to Luke 13. I'll just start at verse 1. Sarah, you want to read? (13:1) of Luke. There were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. And Jesus answered, said unto them, Suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above all Galileans, because they suffered such things? I tell you, no. But except you repent, you shall likewise perish. Or those 18 upon whom the tower of Siloam fell and slew them, do you think that they were sinners above all men that dwelt in Jerusalem? See, what they had this mindset that if something bad happened to you, well, you must have been a sinner. But nothing's bad happened to me, so I must be okay. And he's saying, no, that's not right. Unless you repent, you will likewise perish. He spoke also this parable. So in verse 6, a certain man had a fig tree, planted it in a vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. So notice again, he's taken the fig tree and he's using it as an example of the nation of Israel. He came to his vineyard, he came to get fruit from the fig tree. He wanted to find faith in Israel, but he found none. Then he said unto the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I've come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and have found none. Cut it down, why cumbereth the ground? Now, notice, Jesus' earthly ministry was 3 years. Okay, or some might say 3.5, whatever. And he answered and said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I dig about it and dung it. If it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. So it seems like the nation of Israel would have a window of opportunity, like at the day of Pentecost and so on, to still receive Jesus as their Messiah, and they did not. And so they have been cut off, and the church has been grafted in. Okay? So this is another reference to a fig tree. Go to Luke 19:4. Zacchaeus. What do we know about Zacchaeus? That's what we always hear, right? Good tree climber. So in verse 4, it says, he ran before him and he climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass the way. That's a sycamore is a fig tree. Just interesting that he came up there and salvation came to him. Matthew 24.
But we haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look it up, sycamore. Don't take my word for it, look it up. Matthew 24, verse 32. He says, now learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is close. So likewise, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. So Matthew 24, Jesus is talking about what's going to lead up to this time period here, that 70th week of Daniel. That's what Matthew 24 is talking about. What's going to lead up to that and his second coming. Okay? And he uses the nation of Israel as the fig tree. Learn the parable of the fig tree. When it's tender and it's starting to shoot forth some leaves and buds, you know it's not going to be long and there's going to be fruit. Israel is back into the land. They're still in unbelief. They're still gathering more together. But when you start to see those things, you know that this stuff is coming. Now, I'm not saying it's tomorrow, but it's on its way. Okay? And that's why I think he references that. Yes?
Can I know that Jesus uses the fig tree to represent Israel, but can the figs also be represented for anybody who might be a believer that has fallen away possibly? Or kind of like the lamb, and then Jesus goes after leaves the 99 for the one? Because I'm thinking about like what we were talking about in 13 where it produces no fruit, and
Yeah.
it's supposed to be believers. So
Well, they were supposed to believe. Israel was in unbelief. Now, there were some in Israel that did believe, but as a nation, they rejected him. And so he was talking specifically to people who would not believe him.
'cause I was hearing a song today it's called Abide, and it was talking about being that branch that produces fruit. And
Okay, so that's John 15.
okay.
Because he says, if you abide in me and I abide in you, you will produce much fruit. But he doesn't necessarily mentions a fig tree.
And so that's why I was thinking it might be the
yeah.
figs and there's
Yeah,
some
no, that's
representation.
John 15 and that abiding, that is for believers.
Okay.
When he's talking about the fig tree in Matthew 13, Matthew 21, he's talking about the nation of Israel being in unbelief, and they're going to face judgment because of that. They missed his first coming. They didn't put their faith. The Romans are going to come in and destroy them.
So it's Luke 13,
Yeah,
Luke 19,
yeah. We hit
Matthew 24.
Matthew 21, Matthew 24, Luke 13, Luke 19, I believe.
I'm just writing them down as a reference.
The 19 wasn't that important. I think that's the Zacchaeus one.
Yes.
Why are you being weird?
Okay. Anything else on the fig tree?
No, but I'm sure I'll have questions later.
Okay. So let's go back to the Matthew 21. verse 23, it says, "And when he was come into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came unto him as he was teaching. And he said, And by what authority dost thou do all these things? Who gave thee this authority?" So, pretty good question. He's healing people. As you remember, just a little while ago, it says, back in verse 14, "The blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and the scribes saw it, the wonderful things he did, and the children crying," so they're not recognizing him as Messiah. They should. They knew what Messiah would do, that he would heal the blind, raise the dead, do all these miracles. And so they see him doing them, and they're worried about, well, your disciples are praising you. The disciples are saying that you're fulfilling these prophecies, and they don't like that. And so then they come to him and they say, well, whose authority? Now look at verse 24. "Jesus answered and said unto them, I will also ask you one thing, which if you tell me, in likewise will I tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men?" So is he saying, he asked him about John and his baptism. And was that just from men? Or was it from God? Was it from heaven? Now remember what the baptism of John was. John was telling the nation of Israel, you're not fit for the kingdom. You want your Messiah, but you got to realize there is a relationship problem that you have with God, and that's sin. And the religious leaders stood back and says, we're not sinners. We're not like them. We're not like the Gentiles. We're not like the poor. We're not like the lame. We're not like the blind, because in their view, if you were poor or blind or something like that, well, then you sinned. And that's why you're being judged like that. And they're like, we're doing pretty good. So he asks them about John's baptism. Now, I find their answer very interesting. They reason within themselves. So notice, they're not trying to say, boy, was it from God or was it from man? They're not asking that question. They're not seeking after truth. They're worried about the implications of their answer. That's what they're worried about. If we say from heaven, he will say unto us, why did you not believe him? But if we say of men, we fear the people, for they all hold John as a prophet. So they're kind of like, how do we give an answer without giving an answer? Kind of like a politician. So the answer, Jesus said, we don't know. We become an agnostic. We just can't tell. See, they didn't take it one more step further. If they don't answer him, he's not going to answer them. And he said unto them, neither tell I you by what authority I do these things.
That verse has always confused me.
Which one?
Verse 27. Because I see so much in just Jesus's response that I can't just pick. Like the simple answer is like what you said, like he doesn't answer them. Right. But I see more in just that response that I can't define it.
Well, if you can't tell me that happened.
No, and I get that's why Jesus does that, but I read that there's more to it that needs growth from me as a believer. If that makes sense.
Well, when you look at not just 27, but if you look at these things, they want to know an answer.
Yeah.
So Jesus asks them a question, and they're afraid to give an answer. So they're thinking ahead of, well, if we give this answer, so it would be like saying, is the Bible true? That's the correct answer, right?
Yeah.
Bible's true. Okay. Should we follow what the Bible says?
Yeah.
Again, so once you start saying that, what does that imply?
That you believe what is written in the Bible and that you are to comply and do what
Right,
the
and
Bible
then,
says.
so then if the Bible is true and we should obey it, then we should be following it,
Yes.
right? Okay, so they're afraid to make that commitment to say something that, well, John is this, because then the implication is we didn't follow him. We didn't listen to him. We rejected John's
They didn't wanna
baptism.
Look at what they were doing wrong.
No, they didn't want to check that out at all. They're afraid of the implications. Go to Luke chapter 6. I think it's Luke 6:46.
Remember, they don't think they've done any wrong. And if they say, yes, that's what it's for. They're admitting to it.
Luke 6:46. And why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not the things I say? What's he saying? If you're going to call me Lord, then you should be listening to what I have to say. You should be doing what I tell you.
And I guess maybe what strikes me so hard with that is they're the disciples. They're following him. You know what I mean? It's not just like you going up to somebody on the street and being like, "Do you believe in God?" Well, yeah, I believe in God. Then it's they are actually eating and sleeping with Jesus, and I don't know. Maybe I hold them at a higher standard because of it. I don't know.
Don't hold anyone to they're going to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Luke 21 or Matthew 21. So and people will want to do that today. The whole agnostic movement. So you go from you have an atheist who doesn't believe there's a God. There is no God. Okay. Well, how much knowledge would you have to know that there's no God?
Infinite.
Right, you'd have to know everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, I guess I can't say that, you know.
Because then you'd have the answer for everything.
Well, you think of, just make up some fictional animal and say, did this one ever exist anywhere on Earth? Well, to give a definitive answer, you'd have to know something, right? To say that there's no God, you'd have to have a knowledge of everything. So then they'll move from an atheist to, well, I just don't know if there's a God then.
Then it's agnostic.
That's an agnostic. And so theist means you believe in God. If you put an A in front of it, it negates it. I don't believe in God. Gnostic, we get the word to know, knowledge. Agnostic is putting an A in front of it. I don't know. Okay. So that's a comfortable place for an unbeliever to just say, I'm an agnostic, because they're not committing to anything. So if you say that there's a God, then then are you going to listen to what he has to say?
They can just stay on the fence the whole time.
Right. They think they're on the fence. They're not on the fence. They're on the other side.
They're looking at the fence.
What's that?
They're looking at the fence.
Yeah. Okay, so then he goes on in verse 28, Matthew 21:28. What think ye? A certain man had 2 sons. He came to the first one and said, Son, go work today in my vineyard. And he said, I will not. But afterward he repented and went. He came to the second and said likewise, and he answered and said, I go, sir, and went not. Whither of the 2 of them did the will of his father? And they said unto him, the first. So he tells one son, go get to work, go do this. No, I'm not going to do that. And later, yeah, I probably should do it. Dad told me to do it, so I went and did it. The other one is, no problem, Dad, I'll get right on that. And he doesn't do it.
On accident or on purpose? Doesn't matter.
Just doesn't say, didn't do it. So, I picture the one is just having this quick response of, no, I don't want to do it. And then later, thinking it through, and yeah, I should go do it.
Trying to figure out which one our leg is.
And then one that is kind of the kind of the kiss up, oh yeah, I'll do it. Then they don't do it. No following through. And so he asked them, so which one did the Father's will? And they said, well, the first one. Verily I say unto you that publicans, so that would be tax collectors. And remember, in the Jewish nation there in Israel, the tax collectors, they were the low of the low. They worked for the Romans to take money from the Jewish people and send back to Rome, and they had the authority to add a little bit for themselves, and that's how they made money. So the IRS,
Nice gig, right?
yeah,
Yes, can we go back and talk about the fig tree again?
sure. What do you want to talk about?
So with 21:19, why would Israel want to be referenced as a fig tree when Jesus curses it for no fruit to grow on it ever?
Well, I don't think they wanted to be. Jesus is just saying that I think he's talking about that generation. Because if we keep going, you look at the Luke passage, which is the same.
Talking about that generation only.
Yeah, that generation and the nation of Israel. So I got two things here. The nation of Israel is going to get cut off. That generation is going to perish in Jerusalem. They're going to get wiped out in 70 AD. Okay? Now, it is...
Well, I was just wondering because it says, let no fruit grow on you ever again.
Yeah, and it's going to be, they're going to be wiped out. Now, if you go back,
Well, then that means there'd be nobody. If the generation is wiped out, then there's
I was
nobody.
talking about the unbelievers there. The people who believed by 70 AD, they knew to get out of Jerusalem. Jesus warned them, it's in Luke, says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded, get out of town.
Is that the Luke 13?
No, that's going to be,
Well, that would make them a different fruit tree then.
as a nation,
Then you'd
as
have
a,
two fig trees.
As a nation, they rejected their Messiah. Inside of that nation, you had individuals. Just like you could say the nation, the world, was destroyed by a flood. Well, there was Noah and his family, that believed and escaped the judgment, but the world was judged, Later on in the book of Romans, he's going to talk about the tree being cut off and us grafted in, but he's going to restore that tree once again. So,
Yeah, that's a different time. So then the other question, when we were at 24:32,
yep.
how can that be for Israel when it clearly is referencing verse 31? And when you back up to verse 30, that's for all the tribes of the earth.
Yep. So it says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. This is the second coming.
Yeah.
Okay? And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end to the other. This is going to be gathering the people together. The Jews are going to be going under the rod judgment. The Gentiles are going to be under the sheep and goat judgment to see who enters into what's called the kingdom, the 1,000-year reign.
Everybody.
Okay? In two separate judgments.
But it's still everybody that's being gathered together,
Well,
is what it says.
So we can go to a couple other places, but then in verse 32 he says, now learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is close. You know it's coming. So likewise, when you see all of these things, know that it is near, even at the door. So if we go all the way back into the first part of Matthew 24, when he says, Matthew 24, verse 4, he said to them, "Take heed that no man deceive you. Many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, shall deceive many. You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. These are the beginning of sorrows." So he tells you what's going to start to lead up. He says, that's not the end, that's leading up to the end. Right. So he says, learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branch is yet tender, it put forth leaves. You know that summer is close. So
Yeah, after
you're
a whole lot of other stuff happens, after the verse we just talked about, there's still all this other
right.
stuff.
So when you see, so likewise in verse 33, so likewise when you see all of these things, you know that it's near. So it's not there yet. He talks about in verses 4 through 8 where I just read, those are the beginnings, those are signs that it's increasing. It's like the woman that's going to go into labor. She starts having contractions, but it's going to be a while, and they're going to get more frequent, and they're going to get a lot harder. But you know the baby's coming. You may not know exactly when, but you know she's going to give birth soon. Okay? And that's what he's saying when you start to see these things. And then he talks about the parable of the fig tree, and he says, so when you see this, you know it's coming, it's getting. And then he says, verily I say to you, this generation shall not pass away. So that's why a lot of people look at May 14th, 1948, and say that generation is going to be here when these things take place. May 14th, 1948 is when Israel became a nation. And so some people believe that's the starting point. Other people will say they didn't have Jerusalem, though. They didn't get Jerusalem until 1967. And they'll put the date then. Others will say they still don't have the temple. You have to wait for the temple. So it's kind of a question mark of when do you start that generation? Okay? But the people that were born in 48, they're in their 70s.
So yeah, they're going to be dying.
Yeah, and depending on what you compare a generation to, some people will say, well, the Bible speaks of 80 years and so on and so forth. And so it's got to be close. Now, that's if that's the starting point. Like I said, they didn't have Jerusalem. They didn't get that till 67, I believe. So is that the starting point?
Didn't Trump just make Jerusalem the capital?
Oh, he did that his first term. He recognized it. Jerusalem has been their capital. We moved our embassy there. I don't think that would have anything to do with it. The nation of Israel, I think, got Jerusalem, and you'd have to look it up to make sure, but I think it was 1967, the Six-Day War. Then they faced another war in 1973, the Yom Kippur War. But I think they already had, but they got a lot of land during that other one. But anyway, so depending on the starting point, I don't like to say, oh, this is going to be the starting point officially, so, because you kind of set yourself up. I think that we should be able to look at things that are going on and say, yeah, we're getting closer. We better, get at it.
Yeah, then there's still a verse that says, but still not even the Father, or not even Jesus knows the exact day, though, too.
There is, but that is what's called an idiom, a saying. So, like, if I say Becky's purse weighs a ton, y'all know what it means. There's like everything but the kitchen sink in there. You know what that idiom means, okay? They're sayings that have meaning for us. Now, what's interesting is when you get someone from another country to come over here that's took a couple English classes and they hear our idioms, they have no clue what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. The same is true with Israel. Israel has certain idioms. One of the idioms that they had was for the Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Trumpets was on the first day of their month. They go by a lunar calendar, not a solar calendar. And so the Passover is easy because they have a new moon. Okay, you count 10 days, it's Lamb Selection Day. Count the 14th day, it's Passover. 3 days after that, that is the Feast of First Fruits. 50 days after that, you have Feast of Pentecost. But then Feast of Trumpets is on the first day. Well, they're not sure which day that's going to be. They have to wait and have 2 people confirm the new moon and so on. So that feast became known as the day and hour that no man knows. If you just do a quick Google search and put Feast of Trumpets, day and hour no man knows, you'll get all kinds of Jewish websites. They know exactly what it means. But we miss it because unless you understand what they mean, you miss it. So, okay. Did you have something else, Stephanie, on the fig?
You had mentioned something about in Romans. Can we just go over that real quick?
Sure. I believe it's chapter 11. We'll start at verse 11.
What verse?
Romans chapter 11, verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled? This is talking about the nation of Israel, okay? You have Romans 9. Typically it gets talked about as Israel's past. 10, Israel's present. And 11, Israel's future, okay, of the 3 chapters there. Romans 11:11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, but rather through their fall, salvation has come to the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy. So what the Apostle Paul is saying is right now, the nation of Israel, they've stumbled. God is bringing salvation to the Gentiles. He is now using what we call the church, not the nation of Israel. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak unto you, Gentiles, insomuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office, if by any means I might provoke to emulation which are of my flesh, and might save some of them. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? So what happens when God starts operating again with the nation of Israel? For if the first fruits be holy, the lump is also holy, and the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, the nation of Israel, and thou, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, us Gentiles, the church, and with them partakers of the root and the fatness of the olive tree, the Old Testament, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee.
Why
So,
did you say the Old Testament with the olive tree?
I'm saying the Old Testament is that when we say we're grafted in, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying about the Old Testament, we don't discard it, we don't reject it. That in that sense, you know. It says, "Thou wilt say, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in." Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. And thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spared not the natural branches, take heed, lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God. On them which fell severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise thou shalt be cut off. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. For if thou were cut off of the olive tree, which is a wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree. So he's talking about the restoration. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved, as is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I take away their sins. And concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sake, but as touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sakes. For the gifts and the calling of God are without repentance. So God is going to pick up his program once again with the nation of Israel, and it's going to be very glorious. Remember, they're going to receive that new covenant blessing. They're going to have that stony heart taken away from them. They're going to be given a heart of flesh. They will follow in his statutes. They will do what he said. So,
Thank you.
yep.
So how with all the people aren't with the nation, so, like, the unbelievers, there's only a few, or there's a bunch, but the whole nation as a whole still is gonna be believers? Does it go the other way than that? You know what I mean, the other way? So like when all are believers, you're still gonna have a few that in Israel that don't believe, you know what I mean?
So during the time of that 70th week of Daniel, the people are going to have a choice. Take the mark
Well, that's where that's coming from.
or refuse it, and you're going to get persecuted and killed.
So it's point blank.
Some of them are going to flee and make it to a place, I believe it's Basra, Petra, but they're going to be going to a place and they're going to hide out and they're going to be kept safe. They will be saved, all of them.
I have a question on that.
Yeah,
So those that are fleeing,
yeah.
they're fleeing so they don't take the mark and so they won't be persecuted. Will the devil or his minions or whatever, will they know the location of those?
Oh yeah, they try to flood them out.
Okay, so,
So go to Revelation chapter 12.
no, I mean like as they're trying to go to Basra or whatever.
They're gonna, if that's the location, which I think it is, if they take off, they will make it.
They
So
will make it.
if you're in Matthew 24, look at verse 15. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever read them, let him understand. Then let him which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop come not down and take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back. So he says, when this event happens, the abomination of desolation, this is referred to by the Apostle Paul in Thessalonians as Antichrist presenting himself, claiming to be God, and demanding worship. This is the midpoint. There's also going to be the image made. There's also going to be the mark of the beast implemented. And he says, when you see that happen, leave. Just run. Don't go back to your house to get your bug out bag. Just bug out.
So what I'm asking is, so like, let's say the one that's in the field, okay? He just goes. He doesn't turn.
He just
back.
goes.
So,
Where do they go? Where do they go?
I think it's a place called Petra, modern day Petra. Old Testament Basra is in that area. City is that area. If you've seen Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade, that real small opening that goes in the city's made out of the cliffs or out of thing, that's it.
so my question is that guy that's out in the field.
Yeah.
Like, Satan and them are gonna be like, there's one out in the field, go get him.
They're going to be busy doing stuff. If they do what Jesus tells, they will make it.
Okay, I'm just curious
Yeah.
because it's kind of like I have this Hollywood thing in my head, so I just wanted to ask
Yeah.
for visualization different from my head.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does it matter if they're under, because isn't God here to ascend you to heaven at that point?
Well, they're going to flee to a certain spot that God has prepared for them, that's ready for them, and he makes it. I think it's in Luke's gospel when he says the similar thing. he tells them, remember Lot's wife. So you remember before the judgment came, Lot was supposed to leave, and his wife and his daughters, and said, don't look back, just go. And she looks back, and she didn't make it. So I think it's, are they going to run like Elijah was able to run? I don't know. But if they do what God says, they will make it.
Troy and I are going to be running so good, but we'll have that.
You guys should not have to worry about it. One, you're not in Judea. Two, as believers, we won't even be on earth when this is going on. We are taken out before that takes place. Yeah.
So there's 3 trees called the sycamore.
Okay.
The fig tree is actually a mulberry variety of tree that has fruit down on the stalk. And then the North American sycamore tree has got like almost burr-type fruit that almost resembles a hickory nut.
Yep.
It's a totally different species, and then there's another totally different. And Europeans, so in Europe, they have one that's actually, they call it an evergreen, but all these particular tree has the same shape leaf.
Okay.
So they call it a sycamore. They're definitely not the same.
They're what?
Definitely not the same.
Different.
So which one counts?
Probably the one that's in the Bible. The oldest one is.
Probably the one in the Middle East.
The oldest one is the African sycamore tree, which is the fig
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
But they only call it that because of the shape.
Yeah. And notice Zacchaeus, why did he climb the tree?
Because he wanted to see Jesus.
Right. If the fig tree represents the Israel and you understand what God is doing with the nation of Israel and what he's done with the nation of Israel, you'll see Jesus clearer. Okay? So, if you don't understand the nation of Israel, why did God choose Israel in the first place?
Because Jesus was a Jew.
Because of Abraham.
Go back to chapter 11 of Genesis, Tower of Babel. So God made a promise that a seed of the woman would come, right? He's going to fix this mess. He's going to die for our sins and be able to restore our relationship with God. He's going to return the dominion and rule and reign for 1,000 years and then new heaven and new earth. So if everyone is scattered all over the world and speaking different languages, how are you going to know who he is? It'd be impossible. So the very next chapter, God calls out a man named Abram. He says, it's going to be through you, and I'm going to take you out of a land, so no one's going to take credit for making you great. You're going to leave your father's house, you're going to leave your country, your kindred, everything, and I'm going to put you in a land, and I'm going to make your name great so that the whole world can know when Christ is born, the Messiah is born, it's going to be through you. Now think about that. You have Judaism, they knew who he is. Christianity, we know who he is. Even Islam recognizes Abraham. God has made his name great. Why? So we know who the Messiah would be coming through. That is the purpose of God choosing Israel. It started with one man, then Isaac, Jacob, the 12 sons, and so on.
So the world would know that he's
Yep,
God.
I'm going to put you, and God puts him in the center, Israel, the center of everything. Okay? Some people made some really neat observations. In Hebrew, you don't go like we go from left to right. In Hebrew, you go from right to left. It's backwards to us. But if you look at the nation of Israel, if you go east of Israel, they go from right to left. If you go west of Israel, they go from left to right. Pretty interesting. Well, Well, God did the Tower of Babel. He scattered the people, and he made the languages. So put them right in the center.
I have a question. If he made the languages,
Yes.
why didn't he just have everybody in every language know who Jesus would be? like you said that he had Abraham called
This is after the Tower of Babel.
after the Tower of Babel, so they would know who Jesus was and how to understand. Why didn't, if he made the languages, why didn't he just have one from each language?
So you have, when the Tower of Babel happened, they were all in total rebellion against God.
Okay.
Remember how God said, be fruitful, multiply, and spread throughout the earth? And they said, we're going to go and we're going to make a name for ourselves. We're going to gather ourselves together. They do the exact opposite. They were in rebellion. And that's when God scattered them. It was a judgment. And then he calls out Abraham. He says, it's going to be through you, and I'm going to make your name great. And the nation of Israel, remember when they were in Egypt, and God said, I'm going to deliver you so that the Egyptians know that I'm God. I'm going to pour out my judgment on the false gods of Egypt so that the Egyptians will know that I'm God.
He didn't put one in each language because they were in rebellion.
Yeah, I think it was a judgment, and there's Messiah is going to come through this one man. You couldn't have like 70 different people,
Yeah, one for each.
you know. Yeah.
How did they cut to be so many different languages?
What's that?
How did they cut to be so many different languages when the flood of Noah happened? It's not-
So that was previous, and then they get off and they're multiplying, and then they go to a plain in Shinar, which is modern day Iraq, the Tower Babylon, and they were rebelling against God, so God scattered them throughout the whole world, and he confused the language. God created different languages. That's after Noah. Yes. Yeah, God did that. Anything else?
I have one on prayer, but we could ask it the question.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe next time we'll take some time and look at the book of Ezekiel for a little bit and look at some of these predictions on the nation of Israel from the Old Testament, if I can remember.
Did Jay over here, did Jay help us out with that one?
Oh, he'd be great at it. He loves prophecy.
Yeah, especially.
Okay, well, let's pray. Father, thank you for this time that we can come together and study your word and just try to understand more and more of the things you laid out, that we would not be in unbelief, but we would be trusting you in all things and serving you. So thank you again, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.